Welcome, my friends, and in this video I will show you how you can build a workflow using n8n and Lovable that helps you to create ads using images of some sort of subjects. That could be places, that could be tech gadgets, that could be beverages, could be food, and combine those subjects with influencers. So you have images of influencers. They could be just the images of a person, a woman in a dress suit, or just anybody here is for this case. Like I just used random images from Pexel. And now we want to combine those using n8n, using Nano Banana with certain subjects, as I mentioned. So let's actually briefly mention where I got the inspiration from, and that is from the guys from the recap. Guys, you're doing a tremendous job. So I actually used your inspiration, kind of rebuild what you built in your channel and try to build a little bit on top of it. And I think that is what you should do as well when you start building your own channel, or when you start working with n8n. Work with it, figure out what works for you and how you would improve upon it. And in this case here, what we have is we start with a little on form submission where we upload the image to n8n first of all, like the image, for example, in this case of what do we have here, of a hat. Yeah, but let's actually do that and show you how it works. And let's click on the execute the workflow button, and then use one of the nicest gadgets I could find, which is a cup, a Lego cup. Yeah, so the cup looks like this. Yeah, so a nice Lego cup, and combine that with the images that we find in our Google Drive here of the different influencers, right? And the whole prompting and everything is completely done inside n8n. And what happens? Why do we have an issue here? Expression reference this code, but the node is unexpected. Okay. So it has this in here, which probably causes the issue. So let's that quickly, and it should run. So now it's just repeating that. And I'll show you in a moment why that happens, because that is what came from the integration with Lovable. Yeah, so there you might have known or might have not known that there is a great opportunity to work with n8n and then build a really quick, lovable front end. So building this whole front end here in Lovable, where you have a nice option to upload the images that you want to work with and then connect it to a certain webhook, and then using the webhook, start this whole process is really easy. And yeah, that's what we teach, what I teach, what I'm passionate about. If you want to know more about this is our little school, just real tiny starting out. So if you want to join us and see how to build this and get together with others, building upon building flows like this, just join us. It's free. And let's see where things take us. The first thing that you notice here is we have the on-form submission, which we just used, and it goes through the whole process here, and eventually it uploads an image that is in our Google Drive again, which is, let's see where it is. That's the finished image here. Should be this one. Yeah, so person, like one of the influencers with the cup. Yeah, and let me actually see. Now, I think it only ran once in here. Yeah, it only ran once because we manually triggered it. But since we have multiple different influencers in here in that folder, it will usually run, in this case, like 6 times, because we have 3 women, 3 men in here. What it does, let's actually go through this and also go and take a look at the process of connecting this to Lovable. Let us dive into this. It's always a great idea to start slim and then work on improving and elaborating further on integrating a webhook, for example. So you set up this on-form submission here, and that on-form submission is just giving you a form where you can upload a image. Yeah, so all I've done here is have the field name be a file upload, and an element type that is not a name or anything, but it's a file, and that causes the little pop-up that happens here. Yeah, and that pop-up has the choose file selector in here. And when you submit, it's basically the same as if you would use a webhook, an external webhook. Yeah, and the output of that is that file that we upload. Yeah, so that's a binary file, which is in that case the image, the cup image. And now what it does next is two things. It firstly runs through OpenAI's image recognition, image analysis endpoint, and analyzes what is actually on that image, because we will later need that for the automatic prompting of what should the final image look like when we have our influencer on there. So it should understand first what's the product, also what's the influencer like, and how could that be connected in a good way. Yeah, that leads us to what we have here. We have an input here, which is a binary file. This is really important, that the file upload has to have the same name as it is up here. That's case sensitive. So if I originally made a mistake, I had this in a capital I, and when you have that in a capital I and you start it again, it gives you an error because that file is simply not here. But if you have the correct spelling, then bam, there it is. It gives you the result. Yeah? So that is good. And what it does, so first of all, here we have the image analysis and also the extract from file node. The extract from file node, I just go to extract in here, extract from file, and that's the last one. Move file to base 64 string. Now, what you gotta understand is basically in a computer language, everything's zeros and ones, of course, in the lowest level, and eventually the stuff that we see is an image. It's an image file which is connected to a certain MIME type. So this is an image, but in many cases we cannot work with images. What we need is a base 64 string, and that is what you see here. A base 64 string is when you would open a JPEG file with your. Let me actually see if we can see that. If you open this with other. Try that before, but let's open it with text edit. That's not exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, I actually wanted to open this with Sublime. See what it turns out to be. Do we have that in here even? Sublime. Okay. Open. See. Downloads. Images. Influencer. It opens it like this. This is fine. Okay, why the hell does it open it like this? Give me 1 second. Okay, so in my naivete, I thought it was a good idea to just open it in Sublime, but it's what I actually wanted to show you is the following. So in n8n, you get the data, yeah, which is once you create the file upload file and then you move that file to a base 64 string, it is a huge long list of characters, which is exported here as data, output as data. And from that, an editor can understand what this is actually, what kind of file this is. So for example, any JPEG has a certain code. This case, it's a WebP file. Yeah, so it's a compressed image file that is often used in websites to make them faster and the file size smaller. That is all stored in these digits and the letters that you see in here, right? So that can be understood, and it's a very long number, very long string that incorporates all the information to recreate the file and the image later on. But for now, we need to have that string here to work with it, and not the binary file that is actually visible for the human eye. Okay, we have the analyze image node, we have the extract from file node. And then we go into the merge node because we want to work with both of these branches. But if we only connect these without any merge node in the middle, yeah, and just connect these, then only the top one, only the first one usually will get processed, and afterwards it's going to continue here, but the low one is never going to run. So what you need is a merge node, and disconnect that and connect it back here. So what we need in this case is there are different kinds of merge nodes. In our case here, we need a merge node that is set to combine. You can also have an append and the other ones, but in this case here, we need to combine because we need to recombine basically what we have, what we had originally here, and now combine the analysis and also the base 64 string. And you can have that as matching fields. Yeah, when you do have, for example, a list of customers, and in one list you have the name of the customer and the address, and in another list you have the name of the customer and the shipping methods that they prefer, and they're in two lists. Then you could have as a matching field the name of the customer or the email, whatever, and then have a resulting list where there's the name of the customer with the address and the shipping all at once, and it would connect this based on the fields to match. Now in our case, we don't need that. We don't have it actually. So we only have the position, and that's enough because each of these only outputs one output. So it's nothing that we should and could sort in a different way. So let's actually execute that once again. Let me see. Do we have it still here? No, let's actually execute this once again and get here. Get going here. So it's creating the prompt, what is on the what's on the image, the content of the image. It's working through the combine node here. Yeah, we have the content, we have the data as base 64 that's passed through, and then we need to take the influencer from Google. So we have an account. We need to have an account in Google. We need to have our credentials set up. I'm not going to go into details on the credentials here. It's one of the most annoying parts of this whole thing, but it's pretty easy nonetheless. I'm gonna have another video on this, and you're gonna find it online anyway. So if you wonder how to set up Google, go and create new credentials, go on the Google Drive here in that case, and it's using the Ask Assistant here will help you tons. So I'm not gonna go into this right now. Close. Let's actually open it. So works, yeah. And what we're going to use here is we use the search files and folders node. So if we have our node panel on the right and we enter Drive and search, there we have the search files and folders node, and we're going to use this. Yeah? And that search files and folders node has everything pretty much as it's when you use it out of the box. And here, since you have it connected to your Google Drive, you got to set the folder to whatever your folder is. You can also have it as a by ID. Yeah, here you have the ID up here, but in our case here, we're just fine with the from list. So we're going to use the folder from our influencer here, right? So that's where we get our influencers from. And how does it continue? Now there goes the loop over items node. Yeah, the loop over items node is important for all these times where you have a big amount of data and you need to process this one by one, because otherwise if you would just send it over all at once, it would spam the external API. For example, in this case here, the Google Nano Banana API. And then it would all crash or would say it doesn't work or something. So you use a loop over item node, and it sets a batch size. So you basically, it tells the process of, even though there are 6 items here, so there are 6 of these images here that we need to process, don't work them all in parallel all at once, but do one first and then go to the next one and to the next one. So that's exactly what it does. And it then goes and downloads the first of the images from Google Drive, and it takes, so this is just a download file, same thing as we did before. It's a Drive, enter, download, download file, and that download file is using the file ID that is being forwarded here through the loop over items node. So you just drag and drop that troops in here. I'm going to delete this again, but this is it. Yeah? And then you can also see on the right side, the output should be the file, or rather files in this case, of the influencers that we have in here. And you wonder maybe why do we only have 4? Because after 4, something happened here and it crashed because I probably did something that made it crash, and so it stopped. And that's why it's not 6 in this case. But again, same process as before, so it's pretty much the same thing as here. So it analyzes what is actually on the image. Let's use this one. Yeah, so we have this image, and it tells us, hey, the image features a person with long hair wearing a light pink outfit, blah blah blah. And again, we have basically a description of what is on there that could then be imported later in this messenger model node when we when we want to do something and when we want to change the prompt, change the whole setting of the where does it actually happen, where does the ad take place and stuff. So same thing here, extract from file. We gotta take the file and move it to a base64 string. We have the data here, that's the input binary field, and also can export this as data as well. Now, again, same thing, merge node, again, combining these. And here's where the fun begins, where we have a messenger model node. So you need to have your OpenAI node and your connection set up. You go to OpenAI. If you don't have it set up, set it up, please. Just OpenAI, and then you may need to install it. And it's not the messenger assistant, it's a messenger model node. And when you have that, you gotta tell it what model to use. In our case here, we're using 4.1 mini because it's really quick and it's cheap and it's good. So that's why we use it. And then we have a system prompt, and we also have the user prompt here. And the system prompt is pretty elaborate. It's pretty long, but don't be discouraged by how long this is. Usually most of this stuff can be done by ChatGPT. You start with, hey, I don't know, I need to combine an influencer with a cup or something, because the cup is your first try, or it needs to be combined with a location or something. And then you say, hey, elaborate on that prompt and make it better and stuff. And what happens is you find out all these things that could be in here, like the rules and what works and what should be done. Yeah, and you can actually see that there are still these copies from ChatGPT. That's funny. Copy code, because that's actually from the ChatGPT copying. It's giving us an example for if I have a furniture ad, for example, or in this case here, if it's like a location. And in our case, since we're not only working with, let me actually move over here, since we're not only working with one, I call it subject. So we have clothes, different kinds, like a hat and a shoe, but we also have food, for example, here, or we have furniture where it's not something you would eat or directly consume, but it's something where you would place your influencer person, and that needs to, of course, be used differently. If you have a place, the tool needs ideally to understand, okay, is that something that where the background is part of the place or the location, and should I keep it or should I change it? Yeah. And that's why playing around with the expression here with the prompt is one of the most important parts. And it's just play around with it and go at it in an additive way. So start simple and then add stuff to it and see if it improves the results. Yeah. So that's the system role. That's the system prompt. That's why the role here has system in it. And then we add the user role. So what is actually being, what should be worked on? And what should be worked on is the image of the product. This is actually, let's call it, I'm going to leave it for now, but it could be as well the subject. And this is the person that is being worked on. So the description of the product is, let's actually take a look. This is the analyze image without a number, and this is with the number. So here, let's go back. Analyze image 1 is where we looked at the influencer, and analyze image was the product, right? So same thing in here. So the product was the analyze image, and the analyze image one was the person. Okay, and now the role is, as we describe in here, the pretty elaborate description of, hey, you get an image of an influencer in the subject, and you please should do something with that. Yeah, and you're not getting the image itself, you're actually getting the description of the image, which is what we need to then, in the next step, create a new prompt, let me actually see if we have that in here. Where does it say that? We see. Yeah, write one polished cinematic image generation prompt that fuses both into an ad-ready composition. And the output is then, hey, we have a cheerful lifestyle influencer seated at a cozy sunlit kitchen table, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that is then input to the actual, let's call it the brain in that regard, where Google's API comes into play, where Nano Banana comes into play, where this prompt is then used to call Google's API to create the image with Nano Banana. And this is just a HTTP request node. And that HTTP request node is filled with Google's information here. And you get these information when you go to Google AI Studio. Yeah, and you have AI Studio here, just the basic. If you sign up to AI Studio, of course, but it should be the case, I think. If you have question to this, write it in the comments. Yeah, and you go to the API key here, and which is you have a curl command, which is not the right one for us here, because this is using Gemini 2, which is not the image endpoint, but it's not the image model, but this is for just text-based requests. And also you have what you have here, like a JSON content type and the Google API key that should go in here, and a certain setup on how this needs to be described in your field here, yeah, so that it actually can work in n8n. So what you do is you go to the following page. Let me actually draw that from over here. And I look here at my other monitor, and you go to AI Google.dev, which is the documentation of, in this case, like the image generation here with Nano Banana. And if you look at the headlines here, that there are different options of what we can actually do with Nano Banana. And in our case, let's go down here. We want to have the combination of multiple images. So just as we have here as an example, and you have the same, pretty much the same. Let me actually go over here, combine it here. You have a really similar command as we do here. And here we only have one image and one explanation, whereas, where is it now? Is it here? Yeah, here we do have two images and two descriptions. This is image one, this is image two, and then it expects a base 64 and a prompt. And that prompt we talked about before. So basically what you do is you have this here. You have the content that needs to go in our JSON down here. You set up your URL with the, where is that here? With the command up here. Yeah, so the Gemini 2.5 flash image preview, generate content. That is exactly what is in here. Yeah. And then you create a generic credential type for this. So it's going to be a header auth. And if you don't have it yet, you're going to create a new credential. So you go in here, call it like Nano Banana API or whatever. And then you're going to go down here where you can create an API key. And that's exactly the same as you have written out here where it says API key, which we don't have yet. So you're going to create one. And you click on it. And what it's going to tell you is, hey, you need a project in Google Cloud. What you do is you open a new browser window. Do I have it open here, actually? Let me see. I think I had it open somewhere. Here. And this is where you go to Google console.cloud.google.com, and you need to create either first an access to Google Cloud Console. If you don't have that, do that. But I suppose you have that already. And then you got to create a new project. Yeah. So you click on new project, give it some weird name that you like, create it. And what's going to happen, I'm not going to do that now because I only have 10 left in here. But yeah, what you're going to have then is you're going to have that project. You're probably going to you need to click it on here again because sometimes it's you create it, but it's not changed in here. So you got to click it. And then you have, let me see, let's do that. Yeah, so you go and just take it like a new project. It's being created, takes a moment. And while it's being created, you can go to actually APIs and services down here. Let's see if that works. It does. And first of all, we need to, you may have done that before, but you need to connect it, let me see, to, or actually, do we need to? No, we don't need to. We need to go to credentials in that case. And we gotta create a new API key. Yeah, that's here in the APIs and services. Go to create credentials, create an API key. If you need to, for testing purposes, you don't need to have a restriction. Of course, if you have a live production page, you have to have, I would recommend you have restrictions in the key, and that's another topic for another day. But yeah, you get the key, and that key then is available in here. So you tell it what project it is, and then it creates the key. Now, you're going to see the keys down here, and it's going to tell you what's the free tier and what's the tier 1. Now, to my understanding, the Nanobanana endpoint and model was free in the beginning, and it's not anymore. So if I use this, if I continue to use this API key, it doesn't work anymore. It used to work, not anymore. And I have set up my billings to create, let's actually see this. Yeah, it costs a little bit of money in the last couple of days, but it's not much. So I would recommend setting this up. If you find a way to still get this for free, congrats to you. Let me know how you do it. And right now, I think it's the time is over when it was free, but always willing to learn. If we go in here, yeah, we're still in our HTTP request node as we've been before. And we have set up our API here. Sorry if that was too fast. Yeah, you give it a name. That name is, what was the name actually? Let me see. What was the name in this case? Give me 1 second. All right. Yeah, completely forgot about this. The name is what we've seen here in our, here in the Google AI Studio. This is the stuff that is before the, whatever that's called here. Yeah, so that's Google API key. And that needs to go here in your header authentication. Yeah, and down here in the value, that's your API key. Okay, that's it. I'll maybe switch back to the workflow. All right, back to the workflow. Yeah, so you have all that in here, and now you have the description that we had in our, what was that, in our Google AI docs documentation. So basically the stuff that goes here in the, after the -d, that's the content that we need to put in here. And in our case, the data comes from, now where does it come from? Think about it to learn. It comes from, in the first place, from the uploaded file, and in the second case, also from the uploaded file. Now, in this case, it's not the base string anymore. This is the real file. Now let's actually run this again. So again, using our little cup here, see this whole workflow run. One little workflow run forest. So it's running. So you probably always want to work with these workflows first and then inside n8n version before you build these external connections. And yeah, again, we have the same issue here as before since I didn't save. This was just the, was that the name array buffer? Results. type string or an instance of buffer, array buffer. The first argument must be tab. What is that? I think it's that the name of the file was wrong. Yeah, it has a null in here. It doesn't say anything. A property image result is null. So why is it null actually? Let's see. So what's going through here? I think it's the same what you have here. Oh, it's prohibited content, block reason. So for whatever reason, it got blocked. Yeah. So that's always good to see. Actually, it'll probably be good if we just start this over again. Sometimes, let's use another gadget. Let's use something else. Let's use the furniture. This is an interesting one here because it's much different than having a cup, because this is like the background and it should not have the influencer use the cup, but it has to place them in the background. Yeah. So let's close this again. And now it should hopefully run. It could still create, let me see. Sure. How this all works. Okay. Webhook hasn't been executed? Ah, okay. This is, of course, this is the same thing that we had originally. I didn't save it. There we go. And it runs again. Actually, I'm gonna put this back in here. Oh, this is not gonna crash now because it was quick. But this is to forward information to the webhook later on when we have the webhook activated. Now, in our case here, it's still deactivated. But when we want to push the information to Lovable, then it's good when we have that as a running ID in here. Yeah, so that's what it is. It's a run ID, so that Lovable knows when this whole thing has finished, so that it knows how many of the images. Let me actually see if we can see that here. Yeah, how many of the images should be created, and then stop presenting them in this gallery. Okay, so going back here, we can see the file has been uploaded. And the data, the file that has been created is this, which I find so strange still to this day. It's so weird to then have this image of the person that didn't have anything to do. Like, it didn't have a bottom here until now, but still having that in here in our original location. Now, what you're probably going to experience is when you just start with this, that your prompt is going to suck and your prompt is going to create weird anomalies. Let me actually see if I can show you some of the results we had so far. Finished images. Yeah, we had quite a few. Let's see if we can find some funny. Yes, this is great here. Or this. Yeah, so this is what happens when it's not really understanding what's in the images. Yeah, or the feed that got cut off or something, or using this is an interesting case where you have the AirPods, but now there's 3, yeah, and now you couldn't use this because everybody would ask, like, why is there 3 now? But in some cases, yeah, like this, it would work. So there's 1, and what do we have here? Again, 3. Yeah, so it makes sense to have a bigger number to go just and solve problems just by basically law of great numbers. If we try more often, we're probably going to create better results, and then we're just going to scrap the ones we don't want. Here, I think that it's become clear. Now we need to have an added fields node. That added fields node here takes the results, like the candidates. This is how it's coming out of NanoBanana, taking that data here. And now we basically say, use that data. We're just going to draw that in here. Yeah, whoops, and draw that in here so that the image is only this, like the result, the output is only this. And now we need to do basically the opposite of what we did before. Now we turn the base64 string to a file again. Yeah, where we used extract from file, move file to base64 string. Here we now have the, what is it called? The convert to file. So we have now base64 string, and now we want to use that and turn that into a file. Delete this again. Yeah. And what we do is we only take draw that in here, which is the image result. It's the name again. It's important, case sensitive, that it's correct one, and that's going to create data as output. And there we go. Yeah. So we have our finished image here stored and saved. And that should then be, since it's the actual an image and not a string, basics for a string, that can then be uploaded to Google. Yeah. So again, use our drive as we did before. Now in this case, we have the upload file node. So you again go to Google Drive and not download, but in this case, upload, connect it to your file, have data as the input. Yeah, so this needs to be the same as this, and then give it some name. And this is where it got stuck before, because we gave it a run index, which is telling it that use this, count basically every run that the workflow inside n8n is running. This is one way to sort this. In our case, when we work with Lovable, it's good and better to have this be connected to the webhook, because then it's accounted in a different way. Yeah. So right now you see that this is grayed out because the webhook is deactivated here, but that's how it would work when the webhook, or once we activate the webhook. Let's actually do that right now. And as you can see, this is how the whole process works inside n8n. It's great. And again, little commercial for ourselves. If you want to know more about this and work with us and help you improve your own workflows, sign up for our free community, AI Leverage Lab on School. Links in the description. For now, let's switch back here and actually click on this and click D, which activates it back again. You can also see that now we have this little icon here, the indicator, where we can say, okay, which one of these triggers do we want to use here? Do we want to do the on-form submission, or do we want to use the webhook? So if I mark this and click D, that's always, it's again gonna go back to only execute the workflow, and now it's using only the webhook here. Now, using the webhook is really straightforward, and it always gives you this nice little URL here. And for testing purposes, you get a test URL, the webhook minus test. Once you're in production, you get rid of that minus test extension, and you would just listen to a test event. And now that test event, let me stop listening here for a second. That test event needs to come from Lovable in that case. Now, if you haven't ever used Lovable, is one of the greatest builders and one of the most fantastic additions to n8n, if you've ever seen one. Yeah, so having a pretty elaborate backend and processing, which is asynchronous, so it's not all being done right away, but right here, and then one by one being pushed to Lovable. That is fantastic. Yeah. And then you only have basically like a storefront or some sort of nice looking layouted page here that you can then just publish to whatever URL you wish, where you can get a new URL if you want this to really be an app, the tool, or whatever. As you can see right now, for example, like I didn't have any menu or anything up here, move forward or backwards button. Oh, actually here is one, but in some cases they're missing. And what you would do is you would set up a lovable.dev account, and you just basically enter the most, like the stupidest straightforward way you would describe this, and then you work from there. So if you see, I actually always do these kind of things with voice dictation, and this is what basically the voice picked up, the mic picked up. I have an 8n workflow that creates images of subjects, products like tech, blah, 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 and then gives the images out to a Google Drive file. I want to change their flow so that it's which is currently set up from a form upload. And I wanted to instead take a webhook and take it from a Lovable simple upload page, and instead of posting the image to Google Drive, eventually it should show them in a result page for every run of the workflow in a Lovable overview of images, and it should be possible to click the images and delete them or favorite them, highlight them, make them bigger in the lightbox, or similar things. And that was it. And then it started giving me all these iterations. We found some errors, and we found some issues because which one was that? There is some cross-referencing. Where was that? Was that here? I think that was in Google Drive. Let me see. Where was that? There was some cross referencing going on in a thread. What's that? Give me 1 second. There we go. What I was talking about is this little option here in the webhook. So that is necessary, that needs to be in here, that n8n is allowed to receive webhooks from Lovable, which is called like cross-origin restriction, or in short, CORS. Cross-origin resource sharing. So that's necessary in order to take browser uploads from Lovable. And Lovable is going to help you do this and achieve this, basically, which is of course awesome, because then we have a really good workflow here in place. And this is the finished page here. Yeah, so it has a little, hey, start creating or view your gallery overview. Of course, you can build a login mechanism and something along those lines. We don't have that, so we just click here. And once we have our webhook here, which is just basically webhook, which is a trigger, yeah, and it looks like this when you open it, and it also has these URLs in here already. So you're gonna just take that and add the allowed origins course to it. Actually, I think it probably won't work if that is deactivated. And now for testing purposes, this is just connected to the same nodes as the other one. So basically the whole thing is the same, except for it's starting to work with a webhook here. And if we go to the far end here, the numbering here, the running ID is taken from the original webhook eventually. So now that we have that webhook, it shouldn't give out that error anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute the workflow. By executing the workflow, we can click on this and it's going to check for test events. And that is where our test starts. And now I actually want to do, let's see, what can we do? Let's do two things. Let's use, we had the jacket already, that's boring. We had the furniture already. Let's use a gadget. Actually, I like the cup. Let's use the cup. And let's upload this. And let's see. Yeah, so it's already running. Whoops, and we're too slow. It's already running. It's analyzing the image. It's already coming up with a messenger model prompt. So the prompt is young woman, long hair, blah, blah, blah. And now it's already generating the image. And whoops, there's the image. And it's being uploaded. And now already we can go into our Lovable page, and it should be, if everything's working correctly, should be in a moment tell us that we have the first few generated images. Yeah, so the first one's ready. We can click on here and we have the first image. I still think that is freaking amazing. Yeah, we can download this and just wait for the further process to run. Now, this didn't always look like this, because in the beginning it showed us some weird other files that weren't necessarily, that weren't connected to anything in here, just any image gallery, and then you just prompt it and say, hey, don't show me any random images. I want to show the created images. And then it had some issues with the Google Drive integration. But as you can see, now this all works, and it's uploading as long as there are new images being created. Yeah, and all these this is so amazing. Yeah, all these different influences now hold our cup. And also see that here now this webhook item JSON body run ID isn't causing an error anymore, because it's been taken from the original webhook result here. So now, since it's still running, you can click it. Let's see how far it is. 5, 6. Now in a moment we can see that it's finished, and we can actually take a look at it without interrupting it. Let's actually take a look at the resulting last of the images. That's funny. Yeah. Well, successfully executed. And here you can see, when you click on the webhook, that in your binary view you can't see that run ID, but if you click on the schema, somewhere in here you have the run ID. That's the header. And here in the body, you have the run ID down here. And that is exactly what it uses, what it's being passed on to Lovable to understand that, hey, now with 6 images, this whole process is done. Now it's not finished yet because it has a 30-second wait time. Now it's timed out. It sees, okay, this is finished, and that is it. Coming to an end of this tutorial, I hope that you had fun following this, building this with us. As I mentioned before, come join us at AI Leverage Lab on School. Sign up, have fun building with us, and yeah, let's take it from here and make sure that you're excelling at your own business and becoming a real AI transformation expert that can help companies understand where they should use AI to make more money and outcompete their competitors and all that stuff. Yeah, let's have fun doing that. And it's actually always have to look here over to the right because that's where the camera goes on and off. And I hope you had fun following this. Let's meet again in another video and talk to you soon. Thanks for liking and subscribing.